Most players don't improve at WoW for one simple reason. Improvement requires discomfort, and our brains hate discomfort. WoW is a weird game. On the surface, it looks pretty simple, but once you actually start playing, there are so many moving parts. Mob mechanics, class abilities, rotations, utility, group synergy, coordination. Figuring out exactly why your performance is low can be genuinely hard sometimes. I think we've all seen this before, right? Either with ourselves or with a friend. You're running Mythic Plus all the time, or raiding every week, or maybe PvPing for hours, and then you look back after a few months and realize that your gameplay is basically unchanged. Same deaths, same mistakes, same performance, no real improvement. So this must just be because the game is hard, right? Well, not exactly. Because while the game is hard, the biggest thing holding most players back isn't that they can't identify their mistakes. It's that deep down, they don't really want to. To start, I think it's worth touching quickly on why the path to improvement in WoW isn't always obvious. A lot of this comes down to the way that the game gives us feedback. When improvement is immediately obvious, there's usually some very clear consequence to an action. In WoW, the easiest example is dying to something blatant. If you stand in a massive boss frontal and you instantly die, that's immediate, understandable feedback. You know what happened, and you can adjust next pull. But most mistakes in WoW aren't like that. Most of them are subtle. For example, you finish a Mythic Plus run and you notice that your DPS is way lower than the other two players. What's the cause? Honestly, it could be a bunch of things. You might be executing your rotation poorly or incorrectly. Maybe your rotation is fine, but your uptime is bad, so you spent heaps of the dungeon not actually hitting anything. Or you could be using your cooldowns at the wrong times, so you're not getting the maximum value out of them. And there's a pile of other reasons that it could be. So yeah, identifying what's actually causing performance issues is a skill in and of itself. I'm going to cover that properly in a follow-up video because I genuinely believe it's not very intuitive and deserves its own focus. But here's the key point of this video. Even when players know what they're doing wrong, they still don't fix it. And that's why most players don't improve at WoW, because improving at WoW requires being uncomfortable. This is the real meat of the issue. In World of Warcraft, and probably anything challenging in life as well, our mind will always throw up roadblocks and we usually don't even notice that they're there. A lot of these mental blocks overlap and interact, but let's go through a couple of the big common ones. First up, cognitive dissonance. This is a fancy term for the discomfort that you feel when your actions and your beliefs don't match. So, using a WoW example, let's take a tank who believes that they're really good at tanking Mythic Plus. They queue into their first plus 14 of the season and get absolutely smoked over and over. Now, our tank has a problem. His belief is, I'm good at WoW. In reality, he's just died repeatedly. These things don't line up, and they create discomfort. And our brain hates that, so it tries to resolve it. The problem is, what people usually do isn't adjust their actions, they adjust the narrative in their mind. So, for our brave tank, the automatic response would likely be, that healer didn't help me once, I was just bound to die. Or, protection paladin's really weak, I'd be able to do this easily as a brewmaster. Or, Blizzard needs to nerf tank busters in this place, they're way too OP. And so on and so on. Can you see the issue here? When people run into an instance where improvement is required, the most common instinct is to protect their identity rather than choosing change in their behavior. Our valiant tank couldn't improve because he chose to avoid the discomfort that involves. This flows perfectly into another bias that occurs, self-serving bias. This is basically a thought pattern where we automatically credit success to ourselves and automatically blame failure on external factors. So let's go back to our tank. Let's imagine that 2 weeks later, he runs a plus 15 and it goes really well. They time the key, he doesn't die once. What's the first thought that pops into his head? Something like, man, see, I am really good at tanking Mythic Plus. But is this actually true? What if I extended and said that that run had 3 title level pushes smurfing on ults, blasting everything, never missing a kick, and making every pull feel super easy? That changes the story a little. But the bias still nudges our tank towards the conclusion that he is the reason that that run was successful. What about if he bricks another 14? Well, same pattern. Healer sucks, DPS didn't kick, my class is bad, yada yada yada. There are heaps of other biases that we could talk about. I could ramble on for hours, honestly, but in this context, they all sort of funnel into the same outcome. Resistance to improvement comes from protecting your identity instead of choosing the discomfort that improvement requires. And this is the real issue. It's not that WoW is a hard game, even though that is true. It's that most players don't approach the game with an improvement mindset. They'd rather avoid the discomfort that comes with progress. So, back to our willfully ignorant tank in that plus 14 earlier, the most effective move for him isn't to blame others to protect your beliefs. The most effective move is the opposite, to modify your actions so that they align with what you value. That's how dissonance gets resolved properly. Your values and actions line up in both situations, but instead of deluding yourself that external factors are the issue, you've actually improved as a player. Now, I can hear some viewers saying, "That's all very fascinating, Bog, you handsome and charismatic individual, but what can I actually do to solve this?" I want to introduce a strategy that I'll simply call the WoW feedback loop. It's something that I do a lot myself, and while I am far from perfect, it has helped me improve a lot at the game over time. The loop can be used after basically any piece of content in WoW. So in Raid, it might be after a boss wipe, in Mythic Plus, after the dungeon finishes, or in PvP at the end of an arena match. It goes in 3 steps. Step 1, review. How was my performance just now? You pick one observable outcome that contributed to poor performance and write it down, or note it in your mind. Did you die to avoidable mechanics or rot damage? Was your DPS low? If you were tanking, did your positioning make life harder for melee? Whatever it might be, just note one observable thing. Step 2 is analyze. Is there something that you yourself can do to improve at that one thing? Not what went wrong and not what the healer did or what your DPS did or what your raid leader did. What is something that you can personally do to change it? Do you have control over that thing? Step 3, implement. Based on your response to step 2, what can you do specifically next time to improve your performance in this exact situation? After step 3, the cycle then repeats itself over and over and over as many times as you feel like you need to. And this is the important part, because repetition itself isn't what makes you better. It's repetition with feedback that makes you better. It can be uncomfortable, and we have to accept that we kind of suck sometimes, but that discomfort is literally what you have to pay to be able to improve. Now, to make this easier and a little bit more fun, I've also created a very simple program on my website that you can have open on your second monitor and do this in real time. The way I've set this up, it will track the number of times you've actually submitted something, giving you a bit of a streak. This persists between users as well. It will also list the last 3 inputs that you gave that were either a positive impact or a negative impact on your performance, so that you can recall what things worked and what things didn't work. I'll utilize this tool and give an example of myself just so that you can see this process in practice. Let's say I just wiped on a Mythic raid boss. For step 1, I might write, I didn't die, but my DPS was very low. Then we stop and we think about why. Is this something that I have control over? Yes. I can press my buttons in a different order. Then, step 3, the implement section, we will go, okay, what can I specifically do? I could hold my cooldown for 15 more seconds because I think I'll get more value out of it at that time. After this, we would then go back into the next pull of the boss and see what happens. Did it get better? Did it get worse? Or did nothing change? Let's say, for example, that our DPS improved. We click that it got better, and then we click the next button, and the cycle resets. It will note the thing that just happened that improved our performance down below the tool, and give us a +1 on our streak, which is kind of cool too. This approach looks very simple on the surface, and it is, but it has one main objective. It forces you to review your performance objectively and then actually implement change. It removes that emotional turbulence. You're not sitting there going like, oh, I suck and I don't know why. You're almost treating yourself like a science experiment. Now, the analyze and implement steps can be really easy, but they can also be really tricky. So in the future, I'm going to deep dive into like the nitty gritty of evaluating your own performance in WoW properly so that you're not getting stuck with no understanding of what you're actually doing wrong or what you can actually do to improve it. And there you have it. That's how you implement psychology into improving at WoW. God, I'm so lame. But genuinely, I want to extend a challenge to you as the viewer. Next time you play WoW, use the WoW feedback loop tool. After you've done this for a little bit, I want you to come back to this video, drop a comment below with your streak, as well as what you learnt from the process. I will pick the top 3 comments and give special shout outs in a future video. If you'd like more targeted support with Mythic Plus improvement, I'm also opening Season 1 coaching in a couple of weeks. If that's something you're interested in, you can find all the information on the website or reach out to me directly on Discord. As always, a massive thank you to Ghost Splinter and the Joy of Checks for joining at the Keystone Legend tier, as well as Kaysal and everyone else for supporting the channel. It genuinely means a lot to me. That's all from me. Get out there and get good, homies. Until next time, take care.